Hello, I'm Dylan Sanders, back to share more about my love of film. Uh, Today we are going to be ranking my top 20 movies of this decade so far. We're officially halfway through the decade, so a lot of YouTubers have been doing top 10, top 20 lists like this. And so I wanted to join in on the conversation, share my list, and see all of your guys' lists. So make sure you go down below, leave a comment, top 20, top 10, top 5, whatever you want to do, of your favorite movies of this decade so far from 2020 to 2024. I'd love to see your lists. And while you're down there, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the like button. It would help a lot, help my channel grow and continue to get to share my love of movies with you guys. And then while you're down there, also make sure you have that notification bell turned on to all notifications so you get notified about all my future videos. I plan to record a lot today and then I'll release them. So you should be getting like a video a week for the next month or so at least is my plan. So make sure you get that notification bell set to all so you get notifications for all those videos. And with no further ado, uh, we will actually one more thing before we get into the list. I mentioned this in my previous video. There's a lot of movies I still need to see, and a lot of those are from the last 5 years as well. So if there is a movie that you're like, how is that not on this list? Go down there, comment, and ask me. I'm just going to tell you right now, the most likely answer is going to be I haven't seen it. Um, but there's a chance I have seen it and it just didn't make my list. Everything Everywhere All at Once, Avatar Way of the Water. There's going to be movies that are on a lot of people's lists. Neither of them make my personal list, both great movies. But there's other ones like Banshees of Inisherin, The Father, The Menu, Another Round, The Brutalist, Anora. I could name movies forever of that I haven't seen that I need to that could possibly be on this list after I watch them. So if you want to stay updated on that sort of thing, you can go down there. I have in my channel description a link to my Letterboxd where I have a list for every year from 2024 all the way back to like the 70s where I rank movies released in that year. So I've seen a fair bit of movies. I'd say around 100 movies from this decade, but still a lot that I need to watch. So just keep that in mind, but feel free to ask in the comments section down below about why a movie isn't on this list. And so now, with no further ado, we can get started. So coming in at my number 20 is Dune Part 1. Came out in 2021, directed by Denis Villeneuve, my favorite director of all time. And this decade, he has so far dedicated himself to the Dune franchise, and he has given us, in my opinion, the best sci-fi fantasy franchise since The Lord of the Rings. I would say you kind of have Star Wars and then Lord of the Rings, and I think Dune is now filling that place of just this massive lived-in world with Arrakis and all these planets and everything, and it gives Lord of the Rings vibes of feeling so huge, and Denis Villeneuve perfectly is able to encompass that in this movie and put you in this world and not like make it feel overwhelming. Now, an issue you could say with this film that maybe a movie like Fellowship of the Ring to continue to compare it to Lord of the Rings doesn't really have that issue, but Dune 1 does, is that it feels very much like a long prologue. This is very much so a part 1. It has to set everything up, and that could be an issue. It can be slow at times. It's paced a bit weird. The climax where they attack House Atreides, the Harkonnens attack House Atreides, is kind of placed strangely in the movie because you then still have like an hour left with Paul and his mom like just in the desert. Um, and so it has some issues there, but it kind of doesn't matter because it does what it needs to do so perfectly, which is introduce us into this world, give us all these characters. And this is a film that very much so either could be helped or hurt by its sequel. And this film was massively helped because its sequel paid off and did everything so perfectly. We may or may not be talking about its sequel later in this video. And so it makes this film even better because you can watch it and it be a satisfying, gigantic story. And the cast is amazing in here. Rebecca Ferguson is a real, in this first one in particular, is a kind of a standout for me. I think she does a really good job. But I think the biggest standout of this first film is Oscar Isaac as Paul Atreides' father. I think he just is perfect as that character. Kind of gives a Gandalf vibe of a character that Denis Villeneuve kind of uses to give us a lot of this exposition and stuff, and he just does it beautifully and interesting, so you're not bored. And you obviously have Timothée Chalamet, Paul Atreides. I think he shines a lot more in Dune 2, but he's great in this film as well. You do have the big kind of climactic battle that, again, kind of weirdly placed in the movie of the Harkonnens attacking, which is great. A great epic action sequence in here. And you do have a really satisfying conclusion that it leaves you off wanting more while still feeling like it's a satisfying ending to what this film was telling us, with Paul and his mother finally getting to the Fremen and having that duel and everything, and joining with Javier Bardem and Zendaya and stuff, and get you excited for a sequel while satisfyingly rounding out this film. So I think this movie did everything it needed to do, and Denis Villeneuve is a master class filmmaker. And when you pair him with Hans Zimmer as your composer and Greg Fraser as your cinematographer, you get just one of the most beautifully visual movies ever as well, and sounding movies, and that just carries over even more so into Dune 2. So yeah, a great film from this decade. Coming in at number 19, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. This, in my opinion, is the best post-Endgame MCU movie, which means, yes, it's the only MCU movie on this list. It's not to say I didn't love Deadpool and Wolverine and No Way Home and some other ones, but those films go heavy on the nostalgia. This film is just a great story through and through, and a great conclusion to these characters. We will never see these characters again in this same vibe and format. We might see them again, but it won't be James Gunn behind the camera, and it won't be all of these characters. I definitely think some of them are probably done with the MCU, some of the actors. After Guardians 2, I was hesitant about this film going. Guardians 2 sometimes goes too hard on the comedy and pulls a Love and Thunder, not to the level of Love and Thunder at all. Guardians 2 is a great movie. I like it a lot, but I was a little nervous. I was like, I don't want James Gunn to go the Taika Waititi route here. And he didn't. He perfectly balances the hilarious comedical moments. Drax is probably the funniest character in the MCU. Dave Bautista is just amazing, and he has such range as well if you look at other roles outside of Guardians, but he is amazing in here as just an absolutely hilarious character, dumb, hilarious character, and his relationship with Mantis is great. But you have the heart in here, maybe some of the most in the entire MCU. Obviously, I'm talking in particular about Rocket's story, which is the highlight of this film. Rocket was always my favorite Guardian personally, but this film cemented that, and it showed that Star-Lord may have been the face of this franchise, but this was Rocket's storyline all along. His backstory is crushing, and the villain in here of the High Executioner, I hope that's his name. I'm pretty sure it is. He is one of the best MCU villains in here. He just is terrifying and evil, and it's truly a villain in a time where movie villains, they like to do this thing a lot where it's like, oh, he's bad, but he has this tragic backstory, or oh, he's bad, but you kind of want to root for him a little bit, which can be good. But I also just love a straight up evil villain that you want to see your heroes beat the shit out of, and that is who this villain was, and he was amazing in here. And just this whole the team dynamic in general is great. The new Gamora, I think they handled that storyline well, and I liked where they left that with Star-Lord and Gamora. It isn't happily ever after, because this isn't the same Gamora anymore. And just a blast of a movie that gave me old pre-Endgame MCU vibes for the first time, really, because I love No Way Home and Deadpool and Wolverine, but those movies are so rooted in nostalgia and cameos. This is truly just a great movie, and that one-shot hallway fight scene towards the end is just, it's one of the best fight scenes in the MCU. I mean, it's obviously a fake one-shot filled with CGI, but it is amazing with Beastie Boys in the background, and again, the music, phenomenal, what you expect from a Guardians movie, great soundtrack in here, and yeah, just a fun MCU movie that made me laugh like I wanted, and also hit the emotional beats and made me care for this team even more than I already did, which I didn't think was possible. So another great film from this decade. Coming in at number 18 for me is The Iron Claw. A24 film from 2023. This movie is just an absolutely tragic, like gut-wrenching story that you're watching, and it's obviously even more so because it's based off a real life story of the Von Erich family. It's just an insane thing that actually happened. The performances in here are amazing. Zac Efron gives his best performance, but Jeremy Allen White and the rest of the cast are all great as well in here. And this film was for some reason like completely ignored by the Oscars. I'm not saying it would win. Obviously, you had Oppenheimer and stuff, but I think it certainly should have got more nominations. And it's able to have a lot of heart in there and and also be a great wrestling movie in ways as well, with some really fun montage kind of Rocky-esque vibe scenes in there. Are really great, and then it just keeps hitting you with this emotional uh, punch after emotional punch, and you just absolutely feel for these characters. And as you're put, go through the scenes and emotions with them. And I think Zac Efron is for sure the highlight in here. Just the scenes of him even just in the ring by himself, and bouncing from uh like the bar to bar and whatever is, and the way that he is able to kind of show all of this emotion and also almost be toned down in his performance in a way based on, I mean, what's happening around him, but just fully give the emotion as well. As he's as phenomenal in here. And it's beautifully told movie that A24 puts their spin on as well, and made for a great movie from 2023. Coming in at number 17 for me is The Wild Robot from 2024. A little thing I thought was interesting when I put together this list. No Pixar or Disney on here, but a DreamWorks movie is on here. I'm definitely always my whole life been more. Absolutely love some DreamWorks movies. I mean, Shrek, How to Train Your Dragon. But overall, as a company, I've just always been more drawn to Disney and Pixar. But DreamWorks is the only one that had a movie that made this list. Not to say I didn't love some Pixar movies from this decade, Inside Out 2, Soul. Disney kind of had a rough decade. I haven't seen Encanto, which I've heard is good, but some of their other ones not so great. But DreamWorks dropped this complete surprise for me. I saw the trailers for this movie and I remember kind of just going, this is just another generic animated film from DreamWorks. Or just from if it was from any studio, just the trailers did not do it for me. And then I heard the buzz around it when it came out, how amazing and great it was. And I was like, really? That movie? And then I finally checked it out and I was proven completely wrong. This is a touching, motherly, mother-son story here, told in a fun, cute, animated way. It's obviously a beautiful film. I mean, the beginning, when the wild robot first lands and can't communicate with the animals yet, and so there's not much dialogue, but it's just her interacting with the wildlife and everything. It gave me WALL-E vibes, and I just immediately fell in love with the animation. At the very least, it was just beautiful. But then the story is, a mother finding or some not motherly thing, finding something that they then have to take care of. It's a story we've kind of, been familiarized with. It's been done before, but the emotions in this film and the way that they handled it was just beautiful. And the voice cast in here is great. Lupita Nyong'o as the wild robot is great. A real standout for me was Pedro Pascal, as he's a standout in everything, really, as the fox in here. And he kind of got almost his own mini storyline about, no one liking him and not having friends and everything. So just a beautifully animated film with the heart and emotions you want. That, yeah, it was definitely a big surprise for me how much it kind of enthralled me, and how much I really loved it. And it is my second favorite animated movie of this decade. Coming in at number 16 for me, Nosferatu, the most recent released movie on this list, as it just came out in December of 2024. Robert Eggers, we will be talking about him again later in this video. He is definitely one of the modern all-time horror directors, up with Jordan Peele, Ari Aster. Of his vibe and style it's so distinct, and this movie has such it gives you that gothic vampire feel perfectly due to Robert Eggers largely. And the performances in here are great. Nicholas Hoult is probably the standout for me and kind of the character you follow for the first act of the film, and then it kind of switches to Lily Rose Depp, who is also phenomenal in here. Bill Skarsgård as Nosferatu, you obviously just wouldn't even recognize him, but he is incredible and terrifying in here. And then you kind of have William Dafoe and Aaron Taylor Johnson, who are both amazing as these more, they're kind of liven up a bit more. They're more hammy, more over the top. I don't know if that's exactly the right words, but definitely more fully just commit to this gothic vampire feel. And I think those performances work really well because you have Nicholas Hoult and Lily Rose Depp, which are kind of more toned down, more serious kind of in the way that they portray their characters, and it just balances really well. I think that the ending of the film, without spoiling, it's done really well, and just a beautifully shot film with that final shot kind of almost encompassing everything you've seen the last 2 hours. So this movie truly, I love when a movie can let you escape, and this movie truly has you escape into this world. I mean, you are immersed into this, again, gothic vampire film here. And I think that both acts work really well. You kind of have the first act of Nicholas Hoult actually going to Nosferatu that I think is probably I like that half probably more than the second half, but the second half is also amazing and perfectly wraps all of this up and answers all the questions that the first half gave you. And yeah, just Robert Eggers is for sure one of my favorite newer directors. I mean, he's been around for almost 10 years now, and this was an amazing outing from him. Coming in at number 15 for me is Furiosa, a Mad Max saga from 2024, directed by George Miller, obviously the same guy that did Mad Max Fury Road. Fury Road is in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. I absolutely love that film, so I was really excited for this film, and it did everything I wanted it to do. If you go into this film expecting nonstop spectacle action like Fury Road, I mean, Fury Road is the greatest action movie of all time, has some of the best action sequences ever. If you go into Furiosa expecting that, you're going to be disappointed. You just are. That's not what this movie is. It focuses much more on a story level, is much more structured with these chapters and everything. And I think that works in its favor and makes it distinct and different while still 100% being in this wacky, crazy world that George Miller just perfectly crafts and creates for us with these crazy characters. Anya Taylor-Joy is amazing in here as Furiosa. Like there's moments in this movie where she talks, and I'm like, is that Anya Taylor-Joy or Charlize Theron talking? She does phenomenal in here, and she's only in like half the movie, the last half, because the first half you get this younger Furiosa who also does a great job. But I would say in similar vein to Fury Road, where Tom Hardy's incredible as Max, but in many ways Charlize Theron steals the spotlight from him as Furiosa. I'd say the same thing happens in this movie. Anya Taylor-Joy is amazing, but Chris Hemsworth steals the film for me as Dementus. He is just amazing as this villain. He fully commits. And it's Furiosa's obviously story that you're following, but you get just as much a story with Dementus in here. And seeing him go, head to head with Immortan Joe is great. And he just it's over the top and hammy at times, but it just fits this character and world perfectly. This got me really excited for Hemsworth's future because he's just amazing in this film. And the action sequences, although much more rare than Fury Road, are still great. They don't live up to Fury Road's level, but they're still amazing. The chase sequences. I think the best action sequence is actually the bullet train fight here with the sniper and all of that. I thought that was the best set piece and just real fun action sequence. And the final showdown just worked perfectly for me and was so satisfying as well in here. The love interest thing they do, at first I was kind of like, what are we doing here? Like, is this necessary? Are they just shoving a love interest in there because they feel like they need it? But it actually developed Furiosa and helped lead her to the point we see her at in Fury Road, and what she does in Fury Road, you could kind of use that as motivation. So it worked great action film, and I want to continue to see George Miller just have a blast in this world. I'll watch whatever he does next with this Mad Max universe. Coming in at my number 14, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning from 2023. It used to be a part one, but now what was supposed to be part two that's coming out this year is now called Final Reckoning, so I don't really know anymore, but whatever. It's a great movie. This is, in my opinion, the best action franchise of all time. What they're able to deliver, what their action set pieces and everything are just incredible, the best ever, and this film delivers on that fully. The stuff with the airport sequence, even, that's more of a small scale one that just builds tension so well. But then of course you have the finale with the Tom Cruise riding a motorcycle off a cliff, putting his life on the line like he does in every single one of these movies, that you expect to be the hugest action spectacle of the film, and because it's insane and phenomenal. But then they follow it up with an even bigger, crazier train sequence, crashing and everything. That's just amazing, crazy, unlike anything we've ever seen. And then you have the addition of Haley Atwell in here, who's great. Her and Tom Cruise just play off each other really well. I wasn't a fan of exactly how they handled Rebecca Ferguson's character in this film, where they, without getting into spoilers, they kind of do something early in the film, and then they kind of just like repeat it later in the film, and it just felt like, if you're going to do it then, why did you do it in the first place? If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about, and I really liked her character. But we got Haley Atwell as a substitution, which I'm not going to say I liked her better, but she was great in this film, and her and Tom Cruise worked really well together. The yellow car, when I was talking about action set pieces, didn't even think of this, when they're in the car and handcuffed, it's just thrills after thrills after thrills. That's what this franchise delivers. I think they've been on a hot streak from 3 to Fallout. I will say this film ended that streak a little bit, in the sense that I think from 3 to Fallout, they just get better and better. I would put Fallout and Rogue Nation, which is the 6th and 5th movie, both above this film, but it's still my third favorite movie and my favorite action franchise of all time. It's an absolute blast, and from beginning to end, and part 2, Final Reckoning, whatever the hell you want to call it, that comes out this year, is for sure one of my most anticipated films. It's supposed to be the last in this franchise. I'm curious to see not only how they wrap up this AI storyline, which isn't one of my favorites. I definitely like the villain in the previous McQuarrie movies better than this AI type storyline, but I'm intrigued to see where they go with it, with the submarine and everything. But more so, I'm just excited for more amazing Tom Cruise action, and to see how they wrap up this character, Ethan Hunt, and this franchise that is just one of the best, in my opinion. Coming in at number 13 for me, The Suicide Squad from 2021. This is, in my opinion, the best movie in the DCEU, bar none. James Gunn gives it the Guardians vibe of this ragtag group of heroes, or not heroes in this movie's case, and he just makes you fall in love with these obscure, weird-ass characters, just like he did with Guardians. Bloodsport, Ratcatcher, King Shark, Polka Dot Man, Rick Flag. You obviously have Harley Quinn. Margot Robbie's phenomenal. The whole cast is amazing. And this film is hilarious. So many laugh out loud moments. Peacemaker. Didn't even say Peacemaker. He's one of the funniest characters in the movie. Got his own show, which was great. And obviously a gigantic step up from the garbage we got from 2016 Suicide Squad. And whoever thought in a million years we would see Starro on the big screen? I certainly didn't. But that's what James Gunn does. He does things with comic book movies that we never thought we would see, and does them to perfection. This dynamic of this team is just great. And the whole fake out at the beginning with the other Suicide Squad team was amazing. Viola Davis as Amanda Waller in here doesn't have a lot of screen time, but she is a standout as an absolute just bitch in this movie. She's amazing, like she is in everything. And you care for all of these characters, and they're ruthless in this movie. I mean, it is the Suicide Squad for a reason, and they live up to that name in this film. And yeah, just a blast of a film that's able to have the heart in there. Ratcatcher definitely is kind of the moral compass, but the heart of the movie in here for sure. And just so many standout laugh out loud moments, some great action moments in there as well, and just a really fun group of characters that I hope we get back in James Gunn's new universe. I don't know how exactly he's doing that, like what's carrying over, what's not, but I'd love to see this team again. Coming in at number 12, The Northman. Told you we weren't done talking about Robert Eggers, and this isn't my favorite Robert Eggers movie. I'd give that honor to The Lighthouse, but this is number 2 for me. Just an amazing revenge story film here. Alexander Skarsgård is great as our lead. The entire cast is great. Nicole Kidman is a real standout in here as his mother. I think the relationship there and the way that, you know, you think one thing and without spoiling it, it's something else going on between them and everything. And that final, 30 minutes or so that you figure that out is just amazing and it changes your perspective on her character. And it's done so well. And I love these epic, truly adventure, not adventure, not in the sense of like Indiana Jones type adventure, but you follow this character on this epic journey for revenge, and it's done so well, and obviously again has that Robert Eggers super distinctive style and feel in this film, and here that just makes it all so unique. A revenge story is something that could easily fall into the generic side, but this film is far from generic. Its style shines through. Anya Taylor-Joy is great in there, and to see their relationship grow in this movie to where it then ends off, and again another in a Furiosa type of sense here of a revenge-esque story as well, where the ending just absolutely pays off and is super satisfying, and they draw back on like the tears, things they set up previously in the movie that just make the ending even so much better in here. And I love the Viking feel to it as well. That's done great. Robert Eggers just knows how to make you escape into a universe. He can do it with a gothic vampire storyline, and he can do it with a Viking revenge storyline. And he's definitely one of the greatest. And this I would say is probably his most accessible film, probably to people. It's not horror as well, like his other 3 kind of all fit into the horror genre. This one is not horror. I mean, it has some horrifying moments, particularly with William Dafoe making his obligatory appearance in a Robert Eggers movie. But yeah, just his style, and he's one of my favorite modern directors that I'm excited every time he announces a new movie. Coming in at number 11, Civil War. No, not the Captain America movie. The Alex Garland film from last year, 2024. Alex Garland, another director that I'm just fully on his hype train. He's done Annihilation, Ex Machina, and this. Ex Machina is for sure my favorite of his. It's in my top 20 of all time. But this film is another amazing movie from him, giving a scary possible look at the country that might be becoming more and more possible. And through the eyes, though, of photojournalism, and it does it beautifully. Some of the shots in this film when the main guy is, screaming and you see the tanks go behind him, the way they show through the pictures and everything is just, it's beautifully shot movie in here. Kirsten Dunst does amazing. Carly Spanley, I doubt I said that name right. She's kind of a rising star, Alien Romulus, and now this, and she's amazing in here. The ending, is going to throw some people off. For me, it worked perfectly. It worked perfectly and fit exactly what they were trying to say, the message they were trying to get out there, that they previously set up in the movie so expertly. And as you see these relationships grow with these characters and everything, and then going to that final moment, I think it worked beautifully. And you kind of have a war movie almost in the background of here as well, with some great shots like that. And a standout scene in this film, Jesse Plemons, he's in one scene in this movie as a soldier, working on the president's side of things, on the American side of things. He hasn't, he's not California or Texas, and he is terrifying in that one scene that he is in, and like absolutely soaks up that screen time. He's great in there, and that scene really stuck with me. But just in general, a great Alex Garland outing. And coming in at number 10, Godzilla Minus One. Halfway through the list here with an amazing movie from 2023. This is the best monster movie I've ever seen, because what this film does so beautifully that other monster movies fail and struggle to do is gives us actually like captivating human characters that you actually care about, that are actually compelling, that you want to watch. These monster movies are known for spending so little time on the monster and so much time on these generic ass humans that you couldn't care less about, that that are just boring. You just want to get back to the monster. This film balances it beautifully. You get those absolutely phenomenal Godzilla sequences. I mean, the atomic breath sequence is just phenomenal in this film, and all of the Godzilla sequences are. But you have this really compelling human story about this man, this guilty kamikaze pilot that, didn't kamikaze, and the guilt that he carries from that and everything. And it's just a great human emotional story in there that then just happens to have Godzilla in it as a bonus. The ending doesn't fully it drags it down a bit because I think the first like 2/3 of the movie are so phenomenal, and kind of seeing the country rise together and everything is great. But then when you see the actual plan executed, it's kind of, I don't know, it just came together a bit too easy for me. And then afterwards, even, you have even more of a, oh, it's happily ever after. And I was happy for the characters, but on a movie and script level, it just kind of felt too easy and too contrived for me, and both the plan and then the little snid bit at the end as well. But it made for a happy ending, which, do you need a happy ending in a Godzilla movie? I don't know. But nonetheless, this movie let Godzilla be a monster. I mean, he is just destroying things like you want, and is incredible looking Godzilla. The low budget for this movie, for what they were able to do with the effects, and then it won the Oscar, rightfully so, for it, is phenomenal. And yeah, the characters that you grow to love throughout are great, and so the best monster movie that I have ever seen. Coming in at number 9, Palm Springs. This is my favorite comedy of the decade so far. Andy Samberg and Christina Militoni, who's getting her love kind of now for Penguin as Sophia, which was phenomenal in completely different performances, but they are amazing in this movie. Their chemistry is just great. I think Andy Samberg's really kind of, he's a comedian that just jives with me, his humor. I've never seen Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but I really need to. I've heard it's hilarious. And I love just the concept of this film. Groundhog Day, it's something we've seen, that concept's been done to death, but this movie takes it and does its own unique thing with it, because it's just a concept you can have so much fun with. So what if we put two people into the loop? It's just such a new way to tell this story we've seen before, and the way that they're able to reveal kind of twists and turns that change things as you go throughout the movie are great and were surprising when I first watched the film. And just seeing them two grow their relationship and everything is amazing. And it gives you two completely different perspectives of this story, of Andy Samberg, who has been in this loop forever and knows like everything, versus a newcomer into it. And it's really cool to see those two different views of the Groundhog Day cycle and everything at the same time, especially. So just a blast of a film, a great conclusion. J.K. Simmons gives a really fun, kind of wacky performance in there that adds to it all as well. And so yeah, just a movie that I laughed out loud with, that has that heart, and with this relationship and everything as well, and just great, memorable comedy. Coming in at number 8 for me is Challengers, from last year, 2024, Luca Guadagnino. Don't know if I said that right, but he's a director. I really enjoyed Call Me By Your Name thoroughly, but it wasn't a movie that fully connected with me, or that I absolutely fell in love with. This film fully connected with me, and I absolutely fell in love with it. It just engrosses you into this toxic love triangle, with tennis as the backdrop, of course. The score in this movie is just get your heart pumping, and you just play this in the gym and just go crazy. It is just an exhilarating score that adds so much to every scene that it's in. The way this film is shot is with the tennis sequences, in particular the last one, with all the different crazy camera angles they try out, is just amazing. Zendaya, phenomenal in here. Last year was her year to shine with Dune 2 and Challengers, and she is amazing in this movie. Josh O'Connor and Mike Feist, this is the first thing I've seen either of them in, and they both knock it out of the park in here. And just all three of these actors kind of going head to head in different moments and stuff, and the relationship and the way it changes and everything is just amazing to watch throughout this film. I love the way that it's told, where you're in this final tennis match and it flashes back, gives you more and more information. I thought that was really great, unique way to tell the story. And it gives us with a great ending that I just fully clicked with. Some people are going to be left unsatisfied and be like, what, how is that the end? It worked for me on every level. I think when you do an ambiguous ending right, there's some of my favorite endings, where they're able to leave you completely satisfied and with all the emotions you want, but also your blood like flowing and you're still hyped at the same time. That's a great ending, and that's exactly what this one did, and it perfectly. I totally was on the wavelength of Luca, knew what he was doing with this ending. It wasn't about who won or all that. It was about love of tennis and about these relationships and where they're going to continue from here. And so just an amazing film being completely ignored, by the way, by the Oscars for some crazy reason. Not Best Picture, not uh, any of the performances, director, and not even score. Which again, the score it's one of my favorite scores from last year. Coming in at number 7 for me is The Batman, the best DC movie of the decade so far, in my opinion, from 2022. Matt Reeves is just a master at taking these kind of out of world concepts. We were talking about with the Planet of the Apes movies, apes on horseback with machine guns, or in this case, a man dressed up as a bat, and ground them and make them feel real. And I think this is kind of the perfect combination of Tim Burton and Christian Bale, where Christian Bale, I absolutely adore the Dark Knight trilogy, but it's very grounded. Like it feels extremely real and like almost sometimes like they're just in New York. And then Tim Burton, obviously, have the wacky, zany, full blown comic book vibe. And I think Matt Reeves perfectly morphs them and gives us the best like vibe to a Batman film and the best Gotham of that it feels comic booky while without being completely cartoonish and Tim Burton-y. And I think Robert Pattinson is also the best Batman, which him and Bale are really close for me. Bale certainly still the better Wayne and overall as the character, but when you're talking about strictly being in that suit, Pattinson just he encompasses what in my vision of Batman is. My favorite Batman is Kevin Conroy from the Arkham Batman video games, just Kevin Conroy in general, but particularly from those games. And Robert Pattinson really gives me that vibe in this film. He is in the suit almost the entire time, which I love. And this is a true detective story. I love getting to see Batman. He is world's greatest detective. The other movies never really fully utilize that. This is a true seeing him solve these riddles from the Riddler, go through the town. Jeffrey Wright as his partner in here is great. He's able to add some levity. I love their relationship. His relationship with Zoe Kravitz, Catwoman, is also just perfect. The Bat and the Cat, takes that vibe from the comics and cartoons and does it to perfection. And I love this is truly a year one Batman, getting to see his relationship with Alfred grow and him learn more about his parents and come into that Bruce Wayne billionaire playboy, and just his journey in this one film from the darkness, vengeance at the beginning, and then the hope at the end. And the beginning sequence with his talking over as he's scaring people, and they say like they look into the darkness, they think it's me, versus his final monologue about hope and you need justice and you need more than just fear, are two of my favorite scenes in the movie because it just shows this progression so beautifully. Some people complain that they feel like Batman captures Riddler in this movie and then it goes on for 40 more minutes. And I can understand where you're coming from, but I have to disagree because I don't think you could have that full arc. I think a lot of that hope and that where that monologue comes from is from those final 30 minutes or so. And it shows kind of what Riddler was able to do to this city and corrupt these people. So I think it works perfectly and gives us a great final sequence. I think the standout action sequence here is the chase. The Batmobile chase scene is just amazing in here. And we've been talking about Riddler, but haven't actually talked about Paul Dano yet, who is phenomenal in here. He's typecast as a weird creep, and he does amazing in this movie. Colin Farrell steals every scene that he's in, and now with his own show, confidently can say he's one of the best comic book movie performances of all time. He's just amazing as this character. And so, yeah, this is in many ways to me the perfect Batman film. I think it's the best Batman film we've got. I like The Dark Knight better as a movie, but Batman wise, I think this just encompasses everything I wanted from a Batman movie. I can't wait to see more of this franchise or with the sequels. Who knows when the hell they're going to come out. But Greg Fraser, his cinematography, even the way he makes these films look, the red tint, the score, it is the perfect Batman movie for me. And so, yeah, can't wait for this part 2 whenever the hell it's finally going to release. Coming in at number 6 for me, Oppenheimer. Barbenheimer was the event of 2023, and Barbie's fine, but this for sure was the superior film from that event. Christopher Nolan is my second favorite director of all time, and in many ways, I think you can say this is his magnum opus. I would put other movies from him above this one, but this is truly just him putting all his craft on display here. I mean, everything about this movie, the way that they're able to handle these three different storylines of, uh, the main just storyline about building the bomb, the court black and white stuff with like Robert Downey Jr., and then the meeting stuff with Oppenheimer and Jason Clarke's character. They're able to just, it's so just perfectly crafted and put together. It truly gives There Will Be Blood, Social Network, Godfather type vibes when you're watching this movie. It's a 3-hour epic, and it's a movie about building the atomic bomb that you would think was like history class might put you to sleep. And Christopher Nolan, I love history, so not me, but other people could think that. But Christopher Nolan keeps you completely captivated. I've seen this movie 3 times, and it just flies by every single time. There's so many standout sequences and moments in here that I'll just pull up on YouTube and watch because they're just phenomenally crafted. The scene where Oppenheimer's giving his speech after the bombs have gone off with the crowd, and he steps, in the ash corpse and everything, is probably the standout one for me. But I mean, then of course you have the actual bomb going off that is done so well. The practice bomb, not the actual one, obviously, where you see it before the sound and everything is amazing. The final sequence where he's talking to Albert Einstein, and you see he sees in the reflection of the water, just so many amazing sequences. Ludwig Göransson, probably butchered that name. You'd think you'd miss Hans Zimmer. He's known to team with Nolan. You think you're gonna miss him, and then Ludwig Göransson drops one of the greatest scores of all time in this movie. I mean, it is phenomenal, and it's just makes everything even more tense when it needs to be, more epic when it needs to be. It gives you goosebumps, just the score alone, let alone the actual scenes going on. The cast is obviously phenomenal and absolutely stacked. I mean, this is a film truly where you can every 10 seconds go, hey, wait, I know that guy from somewhere. I mean, Christopher Nolan asks you to be in his movie. You ain't going to say no. So this film has everyone in it. Cillian Murphy and Robert Downey Jr. are the standouts in here. Cillian Murphy is incredible, finally getting to star in a Nolan film here after working with him so much. And it's like seeing them come together and just craft this beautiful character here. It's just, he delivers the emotion, the sense of regret in times, the triumph in times. Just, he perfectly captures this character. And Robert Downey Jr. is amazing as this conniving person in the black and white sequences. That he's been Iron Man for 10 years. You relate him so much to Tony Stark, and yet he's able to disappear into this role. But the rest of the cast is amazing too. Emily Blunt is another standout in here. She's phenomenal, has some standout moments. Matt Damon is able to add kind of some of the more levity moments in here and gives a great performance. Jason Clarke's, I think, is an underrated one in here as well, with the kind of being the backbone of the meeting storyline part of this, and the way he's able to go toe-to-toe with Murphy or Blunt or whoever's in that chair and just delivers amazingly. Rami Malek is great in here. I could talk about the cast forever because there's like a million people in this movie. But it is such an epic story and beautifully crafted, edited, put together. And yeah, I mean, it is a master at work truly here, Christopher Nolan. And he put all his marbles in. And you'd think that he'd be like, okay, I did Oppenheimer. I'm going to take a break, do something smaller. No, his next movie is going to be The Odyssey, one of the most epic, well-known stories of all time. So, I mean, the man cannot be stopped. I can't wait to see what he does with that, and it's just so completely different. So, yeah, he gave us one of the best movies of this decade, and hell, he might give us another one with The Odyssey. Coming in at number 5 for me is The Substance from last year. This is just such an amazing step for the horror genre. Comedy and horror are kind of two genres that are for some reason just overlooked very often or ignored, in particular when it comes to awards and Oscars and all that. But this film is getting the full recognition that it deserves. It is an amazing movie from beginning to end, and it fully commits to the bodily horror. This is the ultimate bodily horror movie. I would have said that about The Thing for years. The Thing's an amazing movie, but this tops it. You can disagree, but I have never seen shit like I have seen in this film. It commits as some disgusting moments, and the last 20 minutes are some of the most bonker things I've ever seen on a TV screen in my life. And it's going to lose some people with those last 20 minutes that are going to be on board with the disgustingness, maybe look away a few times, and then those last 20 minutes are going to lose them. I completely disagree. I guess I can understand, but for me, it worked perfectly. It fully commits and just is something like I've never seen before. And it perfectly is able to wrap up this messaging with it all and just make for an amazing uh, conclusion, in my opinion. And Corley Farjat, I'm sure I'm saying that name wrong, sorry. She is up there now with modern horror legends like Ari Aster, Jordan Peele that I was talking about before. Revenge, I haven't seen, really need to check it out because I've heard it's great. And after this movie, I already would put her up there. I mean, this was just a phenomenal, unique, creative film like I've never seen before. And the editing in this movie is amazing. I mean, Dennis Quaid eating shrimp is one of the most disgusting parts of this movie. And if you know what some of the other stuff in this that happens in this movie is, you would think that that's crazy. But it's just because the editing and everything is phenomenal. The sound design and the way they're able to put you in Demi Moore's kind of feeling like you truly seeing things through her eyes is just amazing and is important for this movie because Corley Farjat also perfectly intertwines this messaging into this amazingly crazy bodily horror film, is able to do this really important message about, you know, looking in the mirror, not being happy with yourself, aging, just body image and how ridiculous it is and everything, and of how some people think they have to look a certain way and how society puts pressure on people. And this will relate to Hollywood people, it will relate to females obviously a lot, but I think this movie can relate to anyone. I think that message is something that anyone can relate to and see themselves in, and it's done amazingly. I mean, one of the best scenes in this movie is when Demi Moore keeps trying to, you know, make herself look better, add makeup while before she goes on this date, and she's in the mirror and just keeps trying to do things and eventually just gives up and doesn't go. And I mean, the editing and the messaging behind it is amazing, and it's completely capped off by Demi Moore's performance, which, holy hell, she's phenomenal in this film. She's my pick for Best Actress for the Oscars that are coming up. Demi Moore is an actress that was like on the top of the world in the 90s with like G.I. Jane, A Few Good Men, Ghost. I think she was the highest paid actress of all time, actually, at one point in the 90s. And she kind of she's definitely slowed down, rightfully so. She deserves it. But she hasn't done a lot, but damn, what a return. She hasn't done a lot recently, but what a return. This is like Brendan Fraser in The Whale type of vibes of just a triumph return, giving her best performance ever, in my opinion. She's phenomenal in this movie, and again is able to make it so relatable and this wacky, crazy concept for a film. Margaret Qualley is also absolutely amazing in this film. It's crazy she wasn't nominated for Best Supporting Actress. I'd say she should win, let alone be nominated. Demi Moore is for sure the standout in here, but you can't have her performance without Margaret Qualley's to complement it as her other half. Literally, you gotta respect the balance, like they say in the film. Margaret Qualley just crushes it in here and gives some of the more horrific, like crazy moments in here, and just fully commits and is able to perfectly just match Demi Moore in here. Dennis Quaid is also really good as a smaller role in here, named Harvey, his character, for obvious reasons, as this disgusting businessman. And I mean, just the shots of him and everything, and of smoking, and again, like I said, eating shrimp, and just his lines. I mean, he just fully commits. Everyone in this movie fully commits, and that's what makes it work so well. This is a movie you have to go in with suspension of disbelief, okay? You just do. Um, like, how the hell did Margaret Qualley build a perfect door in the basement? How did they both wake up at the same time? You just have to go in with suspension of disbelief and accept those things as they happen, because you're going to be on such a, and if a movie sucks, if it's generic, if it's bland and it does that, then you can complain about it. But this film is just so creative with such phenomenal performances and direction that you let it slide on those things because you're just in the ride. And this was just an amazing movie. Coming in at number 4 for me, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse from 2023. Into the Spider-Verse is one of my favorite superhero movies. Absolutely loved it. I was so excited for this film, and it lived up to the expectations, surpassed them even. I prefer this to Into the Spider-Verse. They're really close, but I do think this one did top the first film. I think it's the best animated movie of the decade so far, the best Marvel movie of the decade so far, and just the best superhero movie of the decade so far. This pushed the boundaries of animation even more so than Into the Spider-Verse did. It truly feels like a Studio Ghibli movie. Studio Ghibli. I always Don't know which way to pronounce that, but whatever. It gives that vibe of just gorgeous animation from beginning to end, all the different distinct universes and what they're able to do with that. Gwen's world is a standout in there, which, speaking of Gwen, I also think she's kind of the standout character in this film. This is a movie that is for sure a part one. It's not like Infinity War where that's a complete story with Thanos and stuff. This is a part one that ends on a cliffhanger, and unfortunately, it seems like we're not going to get part three for freaking God knows how long. But I think Gwen does really get a full story, a full development in here with her father and stuff, and I think for that reason she is kind of was the standout for me in here. Miles is also just amazing in here and his growth and everything with the canon events and all that. Spider-Man 2099 is a great kind of, he's kind of the antagonist of this film, but he's not a villain. You can see where he's coming from in ways, which is always great. And the Spider-Man sequence with just all the different Spider-Mans chasing Miles is, again, just breathtaking animation with an incredible, engrossing story, and the way they're able to explore the multiverse in a way that live action just can't. And it's just, No Way Home is obviously a love letter to Spidey fans, but so is this one in so many ways. I mean, Scarlet Spider, Spider-Punk, just all these different versions of Spider-Man done justice in this film. I think the twist at the end with the universe and the Prowler stuff all works really well. Again, the biggest complaint of this movie is just simply that it's not a full film, and that Beyond the Spider-Verse is certainly could either make this movie even better or it can unfortunately tamper it a little bit. So let's hope that Beyond the Spider-Verse, whenever that comes out, is great, because this film is just an amazing experience for Spidey fans, animation fans, or just any moviegoers. Coming in at number 3, Top Gun Maverick, the event movie of 2022. I know we had Avatar Way of the Water in like December, but this film was huge for what it did for movies. You had No Way Home, obviously, prior, but that was Marvel, it was more enclosed thing. This was kind of a return to form of big summer blockbusters after COVID, and it's the best summer blockbuster of this decade so far. Just the original Top Gun is a fine 80s kind of cheesy movie, lacks a story in some ways. This is one of the greatest jumps of a sequel ever. It is so far superior, in my opinion. Just one of the best legacy sequels ever. And this is a kind of the first movie that kind of addresses that Tom Cruise is getting older, and it's able to handle Maverick's character in such a beautiful way where he is getting older. He's not the same person he was in the 80s, while still being that cocky, amazing pilot at the same time. So it handles his character so amazingly well. You get the new love interest in there with Jennifer Connelly, and I think that that's done really well, and is able to give our character a kind of a happy conclusion there. But just him teaching these pilots and everything, and the mission and all of that is amazing. And Miles Teller and Glenn Powell are both standouts in here. Miles Teller is amazing as Rooster, and him and Maverick's relationship and the finale with them is just great. Gives you that summer blockbuster feels that we haven't had in a long time when this movie came out. At least I hadn't, and this movie just gave me that. The songs are great. Obviously, the flight scenes, the scenes in the jets are just phenomenal. Tom Cruise doing a lot of flying himself, and even the other actors, although not flying, a lot of them were in jets with the flyers behind them actually flying planes, and it just makes it so real and immersive, and just gives amazing sequences. And I mean, it's a blast of a movie. I know the director is doing an F1 film with Brad Pitt this year, and I'm just excited because he just was able to give us just a really fun, enjoyable, just great movie that gave me old summer blockbuster vibes. And Tom Cruise is one of my all-time favorite actors. His charisma just oozes onto the screen, in this film included. So yeah, just an amazing, the most fun I've had in a theater, I would say, this decade. Coming in at number 2, Dune Part 2 from last year. I said we'd be possibly talking about this movie. Here it is. The first one's great, but this just builds on it in every single way it needed to. It continues to develop this world and these characters. Timothée Chalamet is amazing in here as Paul Atreides when he fully commits to the Alysanne Guibe, and fully commits to this prophecy that his mom has tricked all these Fremen into. that sequence is just phenomenal. Hans Zimmer and Greg Fraser both back at the helm here again with cinematography and music, and this is one of the most gorgeous looking movies of all time. The editing, again, how The Substance and Dune 2 are both not being nominated for editing blows my mind. The way that this film is able to tell this massive story and just seamlessly go from scene to scene, and gives you goosebumps throughout just from the music and cinematography alone, let alone the phenomenal storytelling and characters. Zendaya is a real standout in here for me. She's great. Austin Butler is phenomenal in this movie as a complete psycho, disappears into this role and is just great, and again completely ignored by the Oscars, whatever. Stilgar, Javier Bardem, gives a lot of standout moments in here as the ultimate hype man for Paul Atreides, pretty much, and it's just an epic film. The writing of the sandworms, the final battle and everything, the duel between Austin Butler and Timothée Chalamet in there, and just such an epic world, sci-fi world that I'm fully enraptured in. Cannot wait for Dune Messiah to see where the story continues. And it's just such a unique take on the hero's journey of with this prophecy and everything, and a perfectly crafted film from my favorite director of all time, Denis Villeneuve. And unfortunately, Greg Fraser isn't coming back for Dune Messiah, it was said, but now that the Batman Part 2 is delayed, maybe a good thing can come out of that and he can come back because we need him, because this trinity of Hans Zimmer, Greg Fraser, and Denis Villeneuve is just incredible, as from these two Dune movies has showed us. Yeah, just the ultimate epic sci-fi film of this century, I would say. Even honestly, I was going to say decade, but you could expand it to century and it'd still be true. One of my all-time favorites. Coming in at number one, my favorite movie of the decade so far, Aftersun. This is a small, personal A24 film, completely different than the last like three movies we talked about, blockbusters, epic, huge. This is a completely different type of movie, but this hit me emotionally so hard. It's just outside my top 10 all time. It's just the way this film is shot and makes everything feel so real. It's not shot in an epic, beautiful way like Greg Fraser and like Dune and stuff. It's a much more personal way. That fits this film, that style fits those films, this style fits this film, like the scene where the reflection in the TV or the way it lingers on certain scenes, it just makes everything feel so real, which fits this movie's vibe perfectly, as it's all told through our character, Frankie Corio's character of Sophia, her memories and everything. And so the way that the film is shot perfectly gives you that atmosphere. Paul Mescal and Frankie Corio in this film are phenomenal. Their performances are incredible and have some of the best chemistry I've ever seen with this father and daughter relationship. Charlotte Wells' debut film as a director, cannot wait to see what she does next, because man, she just completely hit me on all the emotional levels and just gave me a movie to fall in love with here. And the way that it tells its story of Callum, of what he's going through, is again perfectly, just everything fits with this overall arching feel of memories, reminiscing a better time, something everyone can relate to. And we see it through Sophie's eyes. She didn't fully know what her father Callum was going through, so you are in that same mindset, and you just get kind of more and more info as the movie goes along, and till the just gut-wrenching ending. You get these strobe light scenes, and again, that perfectly pay off in that ending. The under pressure scene towards the very end of the film is my favorite scene from any movie we've talked about today. It is amazing. It hits me with the goosebumps and emotions every single time I watch it. I've looked it up on YouTube countless times just to watch that scene, and it gets me every time. So many standout moments in here, though, just between these two characters of just dialogue. It gives Richard Linklater like before trilogy type vibes in here. Of it's not telling some grandiose story or anything. It's just a simple film about reminiscing of better times, about memories between this father and daughter. And so there's just so many moments throughout there that stand out, comedic moments, emotional moments, and just conversations between these two that feel so real, with amazing dialogue in there, and that just crescendos perfectly and makes for what is pretty easily my favorite movie of this decade so far, and will be hard to top. And with that, we have finished my list, my 20 favorite movies of the decade so far. Again, go down in the comments. What do you think of my list? What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? And also, don't forget to leave your list down there. I'd love to see, how they're similar or different. That's the great thing about movies. Everyone's got different opinions, and I'd love to hear some of yours. And thank you so much for watching. I plan to record some more videos so that, again, I can keep posting at a steadily rate. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell to be notified about my future videos, and hit the like button if you want to see more videos like this. And you can leave down in the comments what other videos do you want to see, what rankings, reviews, whatever, anything regards to movies, I'm in, I'll do it. And thanks for watching.